Hi, everyone. This is Corey, back again with another seminar on grammar. Yesterday, we were talking about verbs. Today, we're going to talk about modifiers. So if you were here yesterday, we're going to keep on going with the next section of our Working with Grammar book. If this is your first time tuning in with us, we'll try to explain anything you don't already know. As always, if you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A box down at the bottom of the screen. That's where we'll be putting in all of our answers when we do an exercise and I ask you to come up with an example, or if I give you a grammar problem and you're going to write your answer, you'll do that in the Q&A box. But if at any time you have a question or you want more explanation or help with something, you can type it into that Q&A box also. So let's see who we have here today. We have Anjali back. Hi, Anjali. We have Ellie, Gayatri, Isha, Kai, Milo, Mimi, Ronbir, Shanna, Time, and another name. It says VS. I remember one time you told us what your name was. If you want to put it into the Q&A box, then we'll remember what your name is there. So hi, everyone that's saying hi in the Q&A box. It's good to see you guys back. I recognize a lot of these names. Yeah, so you may be noticing today I'm wearing my lion shirt, my cool lion with the sunglasses. We're continuing our virtual spirit week. Today is animals. So you may have seen some of the other teachers today wearing animal print stuff or animals on their clothes. This is my lion shirt. Isha says, I'm wearing animals on my clothing. Awesome. Thank you, Isha. So great. Shanna says, I am new. Hi, Shanna. Welcome. Yeah, if there's anything that I talk about today that you don't know because you haven't been to our earlier grammar webinars, just type it in that box and we'll try to explain it really simply. So great. Milo says that he's wearing animal stuff today too. Awesome, guys. All right, good. And Anjali has a cheetah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about modifiers today. So modifiers, we briefly talked about them before because it can be hard to talk about the other parts of grammar without running into modifiers. So the basic part of that word, modify, what does that word mean? Modify means most simply to change something about something else. So you might hear the term, if you have a car and you modify it, it means you change something about it. Maybe you change the engine to be a bigger engine, or maybe you paint your car a different color. At that point, you've modified your car. So in grammar, when you modify something, you're going to change something about it, or describe something, or tell more about it. But in some way, you're adding or changing the word that you're talking about. And modifiers are really where grammar can get, in my opinion, really interesting. Because really plain language would be if you just said, I kicked the ball. He went to the store. Modifiers are where you can really add a lot of imagination, a lot of like fun and spice to what you're talking about. If you say that he quickly dribbled the ball and then he pummeled it into the goal. You're, well, pummeled is a verb, but anyway. With modifiers, you're starting to have more fun and you're adding more to what you're talking about so that it's not just plain writing, but it's got life, it's got interest when we use modifiers. So let's go to our workbook, our grammar book that we've been using, Working with Grammar, and let's start reading about modifiers. So as always, if you're interested in reading more of this book yourself than we have time for, I've written the name of the website up on the board. It's heronbooks.com. You can go get the complete book from heronbooks.com. And then you can read about all the other stuff that's in here in addition to what we're talking about. Okay, so modifiers. In the earlier chapters, you learned there are parts of speech that every sentence has. A simple sentence has a noun or pronoun for the subject and a verb to tell what the subject is doing or being. Now let's look at the parts of speech that describe other words in a sentence. These are called modifiers. You can use them to add enthusiasm, importance, colors, size, accuracy, or any richer meaning to a sentence. Here's some examples of a modifier describing another word. The farm had a red barn. The modifier red describes the kind of barn being talked about. It was a great idea. The modifier great describes the idea. She swam faster than everyone else did. The modifier faster describes how she swam. A modifier can also limit the meaning of another word in a sentence. They needed to go to the store for certain berries. The modifier certain limits the idea of the number or type of berries they are going to buy. The teacher chose 2 students to give a report on the United States Supreme Court. The modifier 2 limits the number of students chosen. He only eats vegetables. The modifier only limits the meaning of eats, so we know that vegetables are all he eats. To put that all together, a modifier is a word in a sentence that describes or limits the meaning of another word in the sentence. Now, there are 2 kinds of modifiers: adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives modify nouns and pronouns. Adverbs modify verbs or other modifiers. Let's go over adjectives first. Okay, so before we do that, I'm just going to put up on the board. So while we talk about this, I want you to be able to remember which type of modifier describes or modifies which type of thing. So over here, the 2 types of modifiers. There's the adjective and there is the adverb. So underneath it, what it modifies, the adjective modifies nouns and pronouns. The adverb modifies verbs. And that part's usually easy to remember because adverb, people usually remember, oh, verb, it's right there in the name of the modifier. What they don't often remember is that it also modifies other modifiers. Okay, so we'll get into that more a little bit later, but you can just remember as we talk about this, I'll have a list right up here for you to refer to as we go through it. But adjectives modify nouns and pronouns. Adverbs modify verbs and other modifiers. All right. Okay, so adjectives. An adjective modifies a noun or pronoun. It usually answers one of these questions: which, how many, what kind of. Usually, an adjective is next to the word it modifies, but not always. Here's some examples. That girl is running. Which girl? The girl being pointed out. That is an adjective in this sentence. Kendall has many friends. How many friends? Many friends. She is younger than Jamie. What kind is she? Younger. Younger is an adjective modifying the pronoun she. You'll see that all these, in these explanations, the questions are asking, they're these questions that were up here at the top of the page. Which, how many, what kind of. I want to choose the best one. Which one? The best one. In this sentence, best modifies the pronoun one. Her house in Japan has paper walls. Which house? Her house. In this sentence, her modifies the house, even though her may act as a pronoun in other sentences. You'll also notice that paper is an adjective in that same sentence because paper is telling us about walls. Now, I want to just call that out there for a second where it says her may act as a pronoun in other sentences. So that is one of the most important rules that we have to remember in grammar. We can't just memorize a list of words and think, oh, those are always going to be pronouns, or those are always going to be verbs, because a lot of words can actually act as more than one part of speech. What you really have to be aware of and look at and remember is that what part of speech a word is depends on how it's being used right now. I'm going to give you an example. So the word run. What part of speech is the word run? Most of us would automatically say, well, it's a verb, it's an action, and you'd be right. But it really depends on how we're using it right now. So if I say, I am running. So running is a form of the word run. And right now, running, or rather am running, is a verb. It's describing an action that I'm doing. But let's say I said, I went for a run. In this sentence, run is a thing. I went for a run. In this sentence, it's a noun. But believe it or not, run or a form of run could even be used as a modifier. If I said, I need a running car, as opposed to, say, like a broken down one. If I say, I need a running car, here, it's a modifier. And because car is a noun, well, okay, here it is, noun. Running in this sentence is an adjective. So running is describing or telling me what kind of car. It's an adjective. There's a lot of words like this in English that, depending on how you're using it, it can fit in different parts of speech. Run can be a verb, it can be a noun, it can be an adjective. So as we go through some of these examples, like the word her, we could say, I talked to her. Here, her is a pronoun. Her stands for a person. It's taking the place of a noun. It could say, I talked to Mary, or I talked to Jennifer. But instead it says, I talked to her. It's taking the place of a noun, so it's a pronoun. But if I say, that is her cat, her is now modifying or telling us which cat. We might be confused about, wait, which cat are we talking about? That one is her cat. So here, her is an adjective. So just remember, as you continue to study grammar, don't try to just memorize, okay, don't say to yourself, her is always a pronoun, or her is always an adjective. You really have to spot what role is it playing in the sentence right now? What job is it doing? And that'll tell you what part of speech it is. If it's taking the place of a noun, if it's someone that you're talking to, it's probably a pronoun. If it's describing something, it's an adjective in this case. Okay? So that's what they mean here, where it says, her house in Japan has paper walls. Which house? Her house. In this sentence, her modifies the house, even though her may act as a pronoun in other sentences. Here's a few more examples. That old house is well built and elegant. Oh, there's a lot of modifiers in that one. Which house? That house. What kind of house? An old, well-built, and elegant house. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 adjectives in that sentence. The graduating students will be honored at the awards ceremony. Which students? The graduating students. What kind of ceremony? Award ceremony. So 2 different adjectives modifying 2 different nouns in that sentence. 10 people will get up early to ski in fresh snow. How many people? 10 people. What kind of snow? Fresh snow. Okay? So those are adjectives. We're now going to talk about one more type of adjective. These next words are all adjectives, but they're often talked about as their own part of speech. That's the article. If you've studied any grammar before, you might know that an article is a special type of adjective. The only articles are a, an, and the. So these ones can be kind of easy to remember because, like I was just talking about, where the word her or the word run can be, a lot of different, parts of speech. A, an, and the are only articles. And those are the only articles. Where there's thousands of verbs and probably a million nouns out there, there's only 3 articles. And articles answer both these questions: which or how many. For a and an, the answer to how many is always 1. If you say, I bought a book, you are talking about just 1 book. The answers the question, which, because it specifies the particular person or thing named. If you say, the bicycle needs to be fixed, you mean a specific bicycle that is being pointed out. Here's some examples. I need to find an interesting book about the civil rights movement in the United States. How many books? 1 book. Which civil rights movement? The specific US civil rights movement being pointed out. Oh, and by the way, an and a, the only difference between them is, you may remember this, that a is used when the next word starts with a consonant, and an is used when the next word starts with a vowel. So right here, I bought a book. The only vowels are A, E, I, O, and U, and sometimes Y. But for our purposes, we say an if the next word starts with A, E, I, O, or U, and we use a when the next word starts with any other letter. So in the examples down here, an interesting book. The next word starts with an I, which is one of those A, E, I, O, or U. So we use an. I love eating an apple for lunch. How many apples? 1 apple. Have you seen the high-tech bicycle Alex has? Which bicycle? 1 specific new bicycle that Alex has. I would like a racing bicycle for my birthday. How many bicycles? Any 1 bicycle as long as it is for racing. All right. So if you have any questions about what we just went over, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, because we're going to move on to an exercise next. So real quickly, I'm going to look at the Q&A box and see if we have any questions on that before we move on. Great. Looks like overall you guys are understanding this really well. I like that as we're going along, some people are just writing examples of what we're covering in the Q&A box. You guys are doing a great job. All right, good. Shanna says, nope, no questions. All right, awesome. Okay, so let's move over to our workbook. Underline, well, if you have the workbook in front of you, you could underline. But what I'm going to have you do is in the Q&A box, I'm going to point out, we're not going to do every sentence, but I'll point out a sentence. and I'll ask you which words are adjectives. In this one, we have adjectives and articles, because remember, an article is a special type of adjective, and you're going to basically label which words are articles and which words are adjectives. Here's the example. The black cat climbs over that fence every day. So that one has 4. The and black both tell us which cat we're talking about. Black is a color, and it's telling us which one, so it's an adjective. But the is one of those 3 words, and the, so it's an article. The black cat climbs over that fence. Which fence? That fence. So that is an adjective. Every day. Which days? Every day. So every is also an adjective. Okay, let's do sentence A. The day in early May was sunny and breezy. So I'm going to give you a clue here. There are 4 adjectives in this sentence. Can you spot all 4 of them? Go ahead in the Q&A box, write down what each of those 4 adjectives is. And if one of them is an article, make sure you mark that too. So say what they are and what type of part of speech they are. The day in early May was sunny and breezy. And these first ones are often a little bit easier. So if you feel like this one was too easy, then, well, okay. But we try to start them off a little bit easier. So go ahead and in that Q&A box, mark what those 4 modifiers are. While you're writing your answers, one attendee asks, what is a consonant? So just to cover that again really quickly. Consonants and vowels have to do with the sounds you make when you're saying words and the letters that go with them. So vowels are, I'll write them down really quick. A, E, I, O, and U. These are the main vowels. These are the letters that go with the speech sounds we make when we have mostly an open mouth. So if you just say those sounds, A, E, I, O, U. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, but you'll notice that your mouth is mostly open. Vowels are these open sounds that are in the middle of most words. Almost every single word has at least one of these 5 vowels. Consonants are the other 21 letters of the alphabet where you close your mouth a little bit more. For example, B, C, D, F, G, H, and so on through the rest of the alphabet. When you say those letters, your mouth closes more. B. See, I put my lips together and go B to make a B. The C, your like tongue and the roof of your mouth are having to touch together to make that sound. D, D, F, F. I'm having to put my teeth against my lip to make the F sound. So all of these letters and the sounds that go with them are consonants. That's just the word that describes those ones. So with an and we use when the next word starts with one of these. So book, B is a consonant, so we use If this word started with a vowel, like apple, because it starts with a vowel, we use an. You'll notice that you probably already know this. You just didn't know that there was a rule for it. If you find yourself talking about an elephant, it just feels natural to say an elephant because elephant starts with an E. To go through all these, an apple, an elephant, an igloo, an otter, an umbrella. All the vowels we say an. All the consonants we say a. So a book, a cat, a dog, a frisbee, a giraffe, a hippo. So consonants, those sounds and letters. Vowels are those sounds and letters. Of course, the consonants keep on going, but I wasn't going to write out all 21 letters of the alphabet. All right, I hope that helps with consonant. Okay, let's go back to looking at your answers for that sentence. All right, let's see. And you guys are already putting a ton of answers in here, so I won't be able to read every person's answer. I'm just going to call out a few of them. So Isha says that the, early, sunny, and breezy are the adjectives. Let's look at that one together. The day in early May was sunny and breezy. Very good job. The tells us which day. Early tells us more about May. And sunny and breezy both tell us about the day too. Now, can anybody tell us what the parts of speech are? Is one of them more than just an adjective? Great. Another attendee says that the is an article. That's correct. Good job. Another attendee says that the, in, and early are the adjectives. Well, the and early are both adjectives. That's a great job. But in is actually a different part of speech that we're not going to go over today. Words like in, over, under, they're a whole nother subject. They do tell us more about what's going on in the sentence, but they don't fit under the category of modifiers. So you'll just have to be in mystery a little bit on what those are. We can talk about those more in another webinar. All right, so good. A lot of people are calling out sunny, breezy, all those words as modifiers. So you guys are doing a great job. All right, let's go on to the next sentence here. We enjoyed a delicious dinner at the French restaurant. We enjoyed a delicious dinner at the French restaurant. So which words in that sentence are modifiers? Specifically, which ones are adjectives? Which ones are telling us about nouns or pronouns? They could be describing more about it. They could be limiting it. They could be telling us a color, or remember, it could be answering those three questions. Which one, to what extent, etc. We enjoyed a delicious dinner at the French restaurant. What would be the modifiers? What would be the adjectives in that sentence? While you guys work on that, one attendee asks, what page in the book are we on? Let's take a look really quick. Down at the bottom, we're on page 67. This is in the, this should be in the third section of the workbook, page 67. So if you have the book at home, that's the page that you can turn to. All right, to see if there's any other questions in here before we. All right, so Yeah, a few people when we were talking about in earlier, they're guessing in the Q&A box what type of part of speech that is. And you guys are right. But we won't have time to get into that one today, so we'll cover it more another time. All right, so let's see. One attendee says that enjoyed is an adjective. Well, enjoyed there is actually an action. We enjoyed a delicious dinner. So enjoyed, it's describing something that we're doing. We're enjoying the food that we ate. So that would actually be a verb there. So let's see if we can spot what else there might be a modifier. All right. So Shristi says that delicious, the, and French are the adjectives. Good job. You're right. And do we know what type of adjective the is? You did a great job on that one. Well done. Anjali also says that she got delicious and French as adjectives. Very well done. And she points out that that was from Isaiah. So good job, Isaiah, on spotting those ones. All right. Good. Shanna also spots that that is a article in this one, which is a type of modifier. Good job. So delicious and the French. So there's actually 4 adjectives in this one as well. And delicious, because they both tell you more about the dinner, and the French both tell you more about the restaurant. And the are articles, which are a type of adjective. All right, so you guys did great on that. We're now going to move on to talking more about adverbs. Okay, so jumping down to the next section. Let's go over the other type of modifier, the adverb. It modifies a verb or another modifier, and usually answers one of these questions: how, when, where, to what extent. Adverbs that modify verbs often end in the letters ly, but not always. Here's some examples. We rowed that boat, or we rowed the boat quickly. How did we row? Quickly. Quickly modifies the verb rowed. And there's one of those examples they're talking about, that ly on the end of the word. The young mother lovingly kissed her baby. How did she kiss her baby? Lovingly. Lovingly is an adverb that modifies the verb kissed. Which of them did better? Did how? Better. Better is an adverb that modifies the verb did. Here's some more. I am arriving tomorrow. When am I arriving? Tomorrow. Tomorrow modifies the verbs of the sentence. Am arriving. Jason often helps other students with their laptops. When does he help? Often. Often modifies the verb helps. So go ahead and read. There's a lot of examples on this page. You can go ahead and read through them on your own if you'd like to. But you'll see that there's more examples here, like thoroughly cleaned. It's got that ly in the end. He cleaned the car to what extent? Thoroughly. Thoroughly modifies the verb cleaned. But even a word like not. Our dog should not leave the yard. Our dog should leave to what extent? Not, meaning to no extent. Not modifies the verbs of the sentence, should leave. So looking at that, our dog should leave the yard could be the sentence, but instead it says our dog should not leave. So not is an adverb. It's limiting the verb should leave. So go ahead and read through the other examples there if you'd like. Lots of adverbs on this page. And you'll notice that the adverbs, they really can go a lot of different places in a sentence. like the book was talking about earlier, adjectives are often right in front of the noun that they modify. When it was talking about like, that is a red barn. Red is the adjective describing barn. But adverbs can really be in a lot of different places. They first found the secret entrance to the park. When was it found? First. The family traveled west. Where did the family travel? West. So this adverb is towards the start of the sentence, but this one's at the end. This is one of the reasons that adverbs can be kind of tricky, because they can modify in a lot of different ways, and they can also appear in a lot of different places in the sentence. You just have to be able to ask yourself, like, what is that word actually doing? If you ask yourself those questions like, where did the ship sail? Where did he step? He cleaned the car to what extent? Those kinds of questions can help you figure out what part of speech you're dealing with. So they continue a lot of examples of modifying verbs here. But we also wanted to point out that an adverb can also modify an adjective. When it does, it answers one of these questions. To what extent or when? My mother is very happy. Happy to what extent? Very. Very is an adverb that modifies the adjective happy. So imagine for a second that the word very is not in that sentence. It would just say, my mother is happy. Happy is an adjective because it's modifying mother. It's telling you something about mother. But the word very tells us more about happy. My mother is very happy. So it's an adverb. The house was completely clean. Clean to what extent? Completely. Completely is an adverb that modifies the adjective clean. So I'm actually going to put one of these up on the board for a second, just so that we can get we can see it a little bit better. So you could have a sentence that said, the house is clean. And clean here is an adjective, because I'm going to draw an arrow to show what it's describing or modifying. Clean is describing the house. So it's an adjective. But if I say the house is very clean. So again, that word clean is still describing the house. That arrow is just there to show what it's affecting or what it's modifying. But the word very is modifying clean. It's telling us something about this adjective. How clean? Very clean. So if we look up at our original list, an adverb modifies verbs or other modifiers. So if we look at it, what's it modifying? Clean. What is clean? It's a modifier. So very must be an adverb. All right, I know that this subject can be a little bit tricky, and I see some questions popping up in the Q&A box, or at least some comments are going in there. So I'm going to see really quickly if there's any questions about how adverbs work. Great. I thought it was a question. It was actually one attendee says, I like language. I think it's fun, especially when you have a good teacher. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Does anybody have any questions about those adverbs before we do an exercise? If so, put them in the Q&A box right now. But we're going to look at an exercise for that. Oh, I'm sorry. One more section there. In addition to, so adverbs can modify adjectives, like we were just talking about. But the last thing that they can modify is other adverbs. This is where they really start stacking up on top of each other. Again, they answer the questions, to what extent or when? race car drivers go very fast. Fast is an adverb that modifies the verb go. So let's break this one down for a second. We could just say, it would sound almost a little bit silly, but you could have a sentence where maybe you would say, race car drivers go. I think that's grammatically complete. So if we want to describe how they go, you could say race car drivers go fast. Fast is a modifier. It's modifying how they go. Go is a verb. What is fast if it modifies a verb? It's an adverb. But here, race car drivers go very fast. Well, very is describing fast. So very is another adverb. Very is describing fast. Fast is describing go. So they're both adverbs in that situation. Here's another one. The cookies are almost completely gone. Completely is an adverb that modifies the verbs are gone. Completely to what extent? Almost completely. Almost is an adverb that modifies the adverb completely. Again, they're kind of stacking up. The sentence could just say, the cookies are gone. Are gone being the verb there. We could then say, the cookies are completely gone. Completely would be an adverb because it's describing a verb. And then you're like, oh, wait, there's one left. The cookies are almost completely gone. Almost describes completely. Completely describes are gone. Almost and completely are both adverbs in that situation. So we have only a little bit of time left. I think we have time for maybe one adverb exercise here. All right. So Zach sprinted easily across the field. So to this one, they're telling you right here, here's your clue, adverbs modifying verbs. You're going to be looking for, the first thing to ask yourself in that sentence is, well, what's the verb? What's the action or being in that sentence? Once you figure out what the verb is, then you can figure out what is modifying or describing the verb. So Zach sprinted easily across the field. Go ahead and write in the Q&A box what you think the adverb is there. All right. So Kai says easily is modifying sprinted. That's correct. Good job. We could imagine the sentence just saying, Zach sprinted across the field. Sprinted is the action that Zach is doing, and easily modifies how he sprinted. There's a lot more people putting easily in there. Good job, guys. You got it right. Okay, let's do one more, and then we're going to end off. So here, we're going to look at an adverb modifying an adjective. Your dress is a beautiful red color. Sentence E there. Your dress is a beautiful red color. So you have to spot what is the adjective in that sentence, and then what's modifying the adjective. Whatever is modifying the modifier will be your adverb. This is one of those situations where the modifiers are stacking up on each other. Who can say what the adverb is in this sentence? Very nice. All right, Isha says that beautiful is the adverb, and that's correct. Because the basic sentence, we could just say your dress is A color. Your dress is a color. Color is a noun. So if we then said your dress is a red color, red would be an adjective modifying color. But we say your dress is a beautiful red color. Beautiful modifies red, red modifies color. So beautiful is an adverb because it's modifying another modifier. So you guys did a great job. There's a lot of other people putting the correct answer in here. Very well done. That is all the time that we have for modifiers today. Thank you guys all for coming back again for another grammar lesson. The rest of this week at 2:30, I'm going to be doing a few different writing webinars. Tomorrow is, I think it's aimed at younger students, but it's a letter writing activity. If you don't know how to write a letter and address a letter and you're interested, if you've never done that before, we're going to be talking about how to do that, how to address an envelope. I still like to send physical letters to family sometimes, so we're going to be going over that. Then later in the week, on Thursday, we'll be doing some creative writing. And on Friday, we'll be talking about how to write like professional emails and letters for like business and for life. That one's aimed at older students. But I think most of the people that have been watching these webinars, you guys can probably handle it. So if you want to do some writing, the next 3 days at 2:30 are going to be different writing webinars. And I hope to see you all there. If you have any further questions about today's lesson, I'll stick around for a few minutes with the Q&A box after we end off. And if you want any further explanation, you can ask any questions there. So thank you for all being here today. That's all we got. Bye.